Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to Basementside. I'm your host, Deeg. I'm here today with Matt Dev and Brian, also known as Bitch, or so he says, here to talk about Half-Life Alyx. How are you liking it so far, gentlemen?
I think it's good.
Yeah?
Show's over.
Yeah, it's
Is
good.
is it Half-Life? Or is it something weird?
Um, it's so. This is a funny answer to give because I think this is also like a question that I think everybody has asked is like, is it Half Life or not? It has the same sort of like recipe that a Half Life game will have, where it's like a combination of the puzzles with the shooting, with the story, with like the environmental kind of interaction. But I think the biggest difference, at least so far, and I'm only like 3 hours into it, right? So I'm not like super far, is that the environmental interaction part is like ramped up to like 11. Like it is insane how different that part is. But I mean, it is a Half Life game. Like it feels like a Half Life game. So
Yeah, it looks like Half-Life, right? Old Half-Life games, the kind of progression and stuff was Half-Life 1, you could pick up stuff. Half-Life 2 is like you could throw around stuff, and there's the gravity gun. And this game seems to take that to a whole new like level. One of the things that looked really interesting to me watching you guys play on your VODs is the way that the gloves interact with the environment. Maybe one of you guys could talk a little bit about how the index haptic feedback feels in the game and how that actually ties into the gameplay.
I'll give my input on it first. I really like it. And to go back to what you just said before, I definitely feels like a Half Life game to me. I just played through episode 1 and 2 before playing this, and I forgot how much just didn't remember because it's been so long. But so it's
What
definitely.
was it like going back to those? Did they feel dated? Did they feel pretty fresh still?
I mean, the graphics are dated, obviously, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's I mean, like the what am I trying to say? Like the conversations you're having with Alyx through it, like the story is great. I'm one of those people that plays for the story. Multiplayer is fun, yes, but I'm more of a story. I'm a story bitch, so um, I'm definitely big into that. So going back to this, it's definitely picking up. I'm not saying it's picking up where it left off because obviously this is before, but it's definitely got that same feel to me. And then when you're in it and you're looking around the room as if you're really in the room, it's like a whole nother level. It's awesome, and the detail is obviously a lot sharper. You can interact with pretty much everything you see, like bottles, cans. You pick up an empty can and it squishes in your hand, stuff like that. It's
And can you feel the squish?
I wouldn't say so. No. Like I messed with it a little bit, just like seeing what buttons I could poke and what I could do pervertedly, with everything I picked up. But flipping the characters off in the game, stuff like that. But it's definitely one of the most immersive VR games that I've played, and there's a few that I would say are up there, close to it with some regards. But even then, they only have certain things that you can do that are close to Half Life. Half Life seems like they just polished everything in the room. It's pretty slick. It's a cool
yeah,
feeling.
the haptic thing is funny because like this is like the first game I played because I mostly play like racing simulators on VR, like which is a completely different vibe. But like the haptic feedback is funny on the index because you like actually feel the individual fingers kind of, and so it'll like vibrate that portion of the hand of the controller, sorry. And so that part is like super bizarre feeling. Like it's even to the point where like if you just press with your index finger, you just feel it on your index finger. It's kind of weird. Um, but also great. The other thing that's interesting about it too, and this part I don't really, it doesn't feel like a Half Life game, but I think that's okay. Is that like the actual dialogue to me feels a lot more like like Portal did. And I know this is like similar because the writer I think was the same, if I remember correctly. Like the person that did a lot of the dialogue writing from Portal did this, but it's like got that same sort of like quirky, like oddly satirical element to it in a lot of ways, to the point where it's actually really funny. And so like previous Half-Life games were much more serious, right? There wasn't like a ton of comic relief, but this one is like they've also ramped the comedy side and this sort of like self-awareness side of it up significantly.
Yeah, it seems like that's the way things are going in general. self-awareness kind of comedy. I'm seeing
Yep.
Repairman in the chat tripping in saying 2/3 of the guys who wrote Portal were on this project, so that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep.
Nice.
And it is it feels like exactly like that, like in the same vein. It's just like there's this one joke that they made that I thought was just fucking hilarious. So like we were talking about earlier, the whole flashlight piece, where basically like that's so far is one of my favorite parts of this game is that when you're using a flashlight, everything is dark around you except for the part that you're like actually illuminating. And your character, Alyx, gets like scared during that part. Like right before you get the actual flashlight, right? And then the guy, I forgot his name, who's talking in your ear, he like makes this joke. He's just like, "Oh yeah, this flashlight is activated based on what your fear level is because she gets scared in the dark." And yeah, it was pretty hilarious.
Did you find it funny too, Brian?
I actually didn't get that far. Matt said he got about 3 hours in. I played it for a little over an hour, and I'm probably about 10 or 15 minutes in technically. So
Yeah, it takes a lot of getting used to. Like it's very different in terms of just how you interact with it. It's just not like anything you've ever experienced. The whole reload mechanic too, like all that stuff, the movement, it's just different, right? And I think it's gonna be jarring for a lot of people. It was for me. I know it was for you, Brian. So
yeah,
Speaking of movement, go ahead.
yeah. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that's the one thing that took me the longest was, you know, it's like at one point early on in the game, it was telling me to hit a certain button, like to push it down and then let go to do a jump. So I'm like, oh, okay. In my mind, I'm thinking it's gonna make me do like one of those long jumps or something similar that we played in Half-Life One. You know, when you're, you know, or even in like the new Black Mesa where you do like a long jump type thing. You know what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm expecting to be jolted forward like in a different way. And instead, it's like you can see like these little feet on the ground, like where it's telling you you're gonna go, but I'm supposed to get over this wall, and I'm like, how in the hell do I get over this thing? It's not letting me like cast it over it, even though I can see the arch of my cast, so to speak, ahead of time. But once I do that, I'm still in front of the wall. Like I could not get over the wall for the life of me. And then I ended up figuring out they want you to go on the wall, like this little tiny beam, and then jump off from there. So like little things like that just didn't register in my head according to what they were saying on the screen, if that makes sense.
The other thing too that and I'm still not used to this part at all yet is the reload mechanic. Like that is like when you're in like a fight and you have to like eject your clip, reach over your shoulder, load the clip, and then like cock the gun because you ran out of it versus just like smashing the R button. Like you have like a panic attack because you got like 6 monsters coming at you and you're trying to like reload your gun. You can't remember the combination.
It sounds tense as fuck.
It is like not second nature at all yet. And so I think it'll come in time. Like I'm getting used to that, but like those things are just it's just so different. The gravity gloves though, I feel like were totally that felt natural right away for me at least.
Yeah,
Um,
that's another thing I struggled with. Like, so Matt, when you first used it and they were teaching you how to like pick up objects off the ground or off the shelves and like flick it towards yourself, did you pick
mhm.
that up pretty?
The part that I struggle with at first with it, so it was definitely faster to learn that mechanic for me compared to other things at least. But the part that took me a bit was that when you actually like kind of grab like squeeze the object, you actually need to squeeze the trigger as well, which I
Yeah,
assumed that you didn't have to do that, and so that took a little bit of getting used to. But once I kind of made that connection, like it was totally fine.
yeah. I mean, I started getting it an hour into it a little bit better, but I just like I do it like one way, you know, like basically the right way, and then I don't know if I would just forget like one little piece of it, but I'd be sitting there like I'm sure everybody that was watching me was just watching me like flick my wrist over and over and over, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on, you know, type thing. So I'm just like flick flick.
That actually brings up a really good point too. So like this was something that I interesting. So I picked it up. I played it 3 separate times today. I had to kind of take breaks in between because it is a, a little bit. It's very stimulating, I guess. So I can't play it for more than say an hour and a half at a time. So I took a
Do you
few
get
breaks
motion sick,
and
Matt?
would. So I don't get motion sickness. So I was getting motion sick when I had the joystick movement where you actually like don't use the teleport. That definitely like made me feel like I was going to pass out. But it's just it because it's like so much. I need to like go get some fresh air just to like bring myself back to reality in a lot of ways.
Oh,
Um, it's a really weird feeling. But when I would go back to start it back up again, I felt like I did have to like relearn the elements a little bit. So like had to remember how that flick action was. And again, like once you like pick it back up again, it's second nature again. But like figuring out like, oh, I need to actually reload things in this particular order, right? So that part is weird. And I know I'm gonna play again tonight, and it's gonna have that same thing. I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that's how you actually flick the stuff with the gravity gloves to like catch it in your hand, right?
I got a question for you, Matt. So,
Yeah.
how long have you been playing VR for? Like a couple months, roughly?
Yeah, I got it. So I had an Oculus Go quite a while ago, so like
Okay.
maybe 2 years ago. But then I got rid of that, and then I ended up buying an actual like proper VR headset when they announced this game. So that was what, December, I think it was, November.
Okay. So my question to you is I don't get motion sickness at all. Like I could literally be, drinking whiskey and have a lot in me and do the whole, the forward backward movement as I'm doing the opposite in the game. And there's so many people that just lose themselves over
Yeah.
that, feel like they're gonna hurl. And with me, I've never had that issue, no matter what. So the problem I have is once I take the headset off, more so early on when I first started playing VR, because I played a lot of it right off the bat, is I would take the headset off and I feel like I'm floating. I don't know how to explain it. My legs are moving, but I feel
Yeah.
like I'm floating. It's just the weirdest feeling.
That definitely is true for me too. I think, and that's also like why I need the breaks at times, is that it is very like again, there's you feel like so used to the environment that you're in that when you step back out of reality, it doesn't feel normal, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
had yeah.
so again, I've played mostly racing sims. So like racing sims are just a little bit of a different beast, and I know a lot of people do get motion sickness from that. They don't phase me at all. Um, but for some reason, when I fired up that like analog stick movement on this game, I like immediately just wanted to throw up. Like it was not, it just did not jive with me. Where my head is turning one way and the body's going a different way, like
Yep.
that was surreal.
I like it. I don't know. It's something, it makes it feel like it's more fluid, you know what I mean? Like a more I haven't tried the teleportation in this, or what mode do you say you use? It's like a
It's the in between one, so it's teleportation, but it instead of doing the flash, it does the like slight movement with it.
okay. Yeah. So I haven't really used that much. Like there was a couple games early on where you could use that, like Skyrim initially. I thought that's how you had to play it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I like to be able to moving because it feels like you're really in there as you're running forward. To me, I like looking over my shoulder as I'm moving. I
Yeah.
look like looking down at my feet. Whatever. If the game supports it, that type of thing. I like being able to look as I'm moving because I feel like I'm enjoying the environment at the same time I'm still getting to my objective. Like
Yep.
I like to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, like Greg, the clip that you're showing right now, for those that are actually watching the stream as opposed to listening to it, that was before I ended up switching the setting. So I was using, this is just using the basic flash teleportation, and then after that, I ended up switching over to the progressive one.
And that plays like an animation when you hop.
Yeah, it's not really an animation. So right now this just sort of like blacks out and blacks in again, or sorry, fades out and fades in as you move,
Yeah.
and then you're in the new spot. So with the other one, it actually like pushes you into the spot, but really quickly.
I like how your finger in the door.
The other part, I don't think you showed this clip. You probably cut it out, but like the first thing I did when I was up, when you first start the game, you can like draw with those markers on the glass, and I totally
Yeah.
just drew a dick immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I drew boobs. I drew boobs. That's awesome.
I'm pretty sure every single person did that as soon as they got that they drew like dick or boobs or something.
They're like, oh, markers.
Yep.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, I was like, messing with everything, flipping everybody off, fingering everything I could, pushing everything. It was a lot of fun.
They let you do it. Like you can interact with like everything, and that's what's cool about it, is that like it this is like a big comparison to make, but like it has that same sort of feeling that Breath of the Wild had when I first played it, where you
Huh.
just want to like explore and interact with things to see how the environment responds. So like the big difference between this and other Half-Life games is that, and why I would make it more akin to something like Breath of the Wild, is that like there's multiple ways to solve each puzzle. Like there is not a single way to solve the puzzle. Like you can, I think Valve like released that tweet yesterday where they show like someone kind of pushing out a head crab out of the way with a chair. right? So that's like a great example of this, where you can actually like solve it in more ways than one, which I find great.
So what
Yep,
kind of ways
I
can you solve problems in the game besides that? Like, what are the different
um
gameplay verbs besides pick up stuff? And is it mainly grabbing stuff and either throwing it or slotting it into things? Or
there's a lot of that. There's also like these other puzzles. They don't, they would not lend well to a non VR experience with this. So uh, a great example is like one of the classic Half-Life things is to, you know, get one of those wheels for like a pump or something like that, and you have to find the wheel and like put it onto the pump and then turn it right. That's like a classic mechanic from like, I think every Half-Life game has had that, right?
yep.
So the way that they change it for this is I think it's like the first one you come across or the second one. It's like stuck to this like ledge, and you have to like clear these boxes out of the way and then like grab it and drag it across this sort of like handrail thing to get it off of the handrail and like walk around to like pull it off. And so like that's one thing that like you could solve it in a couple of ways. You could either just like blast through the boxes, or you could just like drag it along this thing. So there's a couple of different ways to kind of interact with it. There's also like another classic thing is with the what are those monsters called in the ceiling again? That like
Barnacles or whatever.
barnacles. Yeah, the barnacles. So like you can either throw a bomb or what? Not the bomb. The fuel tanks up to them, but sometimes you don't want to do that because it'll cause other ones to explode. Or you can just like cleverly shoot them so that they don't like mess up any of the other fuel tanks. And so there's just multiple ways. Or you can just like throw up a chair and then just like, you know, run past them. So
yeah, that's kind of classic Half-Life, right? Shoot
yep,
them, give them an explosive, or just distract them with a table leg or something.
yep.
You know,
I
I had
want
a
to.
funny association in my head that I wanted to bounce off you guys to see if this has any traction. You were talking about the different ways you can manipulate stuff, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Do this, touch this, slide this, spin that, blah blah blah. It made me think of all the way back to the first game I ever played on the PC, which was Myst. And
Yep.
again, getting into one of those puzzle rooms and being like, huh, what does this do and what does that do? And
Yep.
building the mental maps of stuff like that. Um, it's cool to have something like this where you're actually reaching out and touching with your hands and moving around in
Yeah.
3D. Like it's I've had a sudden moment of feeling very lucky to have lived through that transition.
Yep. Yeah,
Like we're here.
it is crazy. Like the other thing too is that like there's an upgrade mechanic in the game, where you have to collect these like resin things to upgrade your weapons, right? And the resin is like hid in the craziest places. So it's like you don't just bust open a box to try and find the resin. Sometimes you have to like take a box and then step on it and then get above so that you can actually see high up and then like find the proper shelf or locker in which your resin is located at. And you can't just like run around and mash the E button to open something. You have to actually physically open the locker to find that resin. And it's just like it's so radically different. Like you you almost are like not solving the puzzles in a way where it's like a game puzzle. You actually like are solving it like I misplaced my pocket knife and I need to try and find it in my house. Like that's kind of how you approach it. It's just a completely different way of thinking.
Yeah. Because it's not gamified, right? Where, in a game like Half-Life, you can just walk around the walls pressing the use button until something
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
But in this, because your means of interacting are your 10 digits on your hands, there's the depth of that interaction can be so much higher. And so much higher to the fact that just doing something simple, like you said, finding a misplaced object itself can be quite a game.
The other part that's interesting too with the puzzles is and Brian and I were talking about this right before we started
Uh,
recording was so with this upgrade mechanic, right? You have these guns that you put into this like machine and then you insert the resin to like upgrade the guns. In order to open that machine, there's actually a puzzle that it makes you solve in order to actually like activate that particular machine. And I'm gonna do a horrible job of like explaining this, but like the puzzles are like in this weird like 3D space and you have to like kind of like use this tool to sort of connect different objects within that space to get them to like activate. So like what was that game? it was like one of those old like Windows free games a while ago. It was called like Pipe Dream or something like that. Do you remember that?
Nope.
It was like you basically would try and connect the different shapes of these pipes to make them form a line so the pipe would like run, right? So it's like that, but in like a 3D space. And it's just I'll have to like you'll have to edit in the clip of me solving one of them because it's just like a completely different way of thinking about a game altogether, or a puzzle altogether. So
So you're using some kind of a special tool with your hands to get things to kind of magnetize or join
kind
together?
of. Yeah, so there's different ones for each station. So the
Uh-huh.
first one is like you have to get these objects to line up perfectly so that it activates the light within this like orb thing. The second one is like completely different. It's like one of those weird like memory games, but
Uh-huh.
in a 3D space. Like I'm horribly explaining it. You should definitely cut in the video of this spot, like when you edit this later, because it'll make a lot more
It sure worth
sense.
1,000 words. I think we're at like 400.
Oh wow, yeah,
No, it's just a joke. I'm not counting.
yeah,
Yeah, I get
it's
what
a
you're
thousand
saying.
words.
Um, damn. I'm for those of y'all out there who don't know, I'm the odd man out of this experience. I'm kind of here to join these two gens together because I don't have an index. I don't have a VR set at all. I'm a I'm a late adopter to most technology. I don't necessarily like to be on the front lines of get that shit getting figured out. And for VR, I've been very content to sit back and look at the Beat Sabers and look at the Super Hots and those kinds of experiences and be like, oh yeah, they seem pretty cool, but I don't need them, you know. There's a certain inertia when it comes to needing to adopt new technology to have an experience, even if you can afford it. Where you need something like a Half-Life Alyx to make a statement for the medium. I feel like to be like, yep, this is what you need. It's kind of like almost like a flagship title for a new console, right?
Yep. No, that's exactly the case. I mean, there's other games that are great on VR. Like, I mean, Brian, I know you play Pavlov a lot. I haven't played it yet, but like the racing sims are also fantastic in my opinion as well. But like, this is the first true like individual story based game that I think is trying to kind of like define what that genre is going to be. Right.
Do you think you have to like Half-Life to enjoy this game?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I
nope.
bet like I think if you really want to get into the story, you should be interested in like if you want to follow the story, definitely you should have played the other games and like at least have a working memory of them. But I feel like anybody could pick this game up, even if they've never played a Half-Life game before, and actually like enjoy it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Brian, I know
Yeah,
you've got kids, right?
I've got one. Yep.
Have you ever put the VR set on your child?
Yeah, my 7-year-old daughter, she picked it up very quickly. Like I started off with the Vive. I don't even know how long ago it's been now, but a year and a half ago, maybe whatever it was,
Uh-huh.
maybe two
Uh-huh.
years ago. And she picked it up very quickly. We played like kids games. There's a couple games where you can like she can have the headset on and I can be on the with the keyboard and mouse like helping or whatever, blah blah blah. And she's just like so fluid with it. I mean, just boom 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 boom. She doesn't get that motion sickness, nothing. And I've got like videos of her like literally just dancing as she's playing these games and she's loving it. So and
That's
then
amazing.
yeah, and then we went to the index, and the index I felt like was harder, at least for me. I'm not saying it was hard, but like it took a few tries to get used to the controls. Like the how you lightly grip the controller to move your fingers in certain games and stuff like that. And she picked that up like faster than I did. So it was impressive.
We're just getting old.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's
Yeah,
what it
man.
is. I still grounded her though.
Nice. The one thing that is annoying about the index, I know Brian, you've had the same beef with it, is that there is no wireless adapter right now.
Yeah,
And in this game especially, I find myself getting tangled like constantly.
yeah, that's my biggest pet peeve too. Like I loved that about the Vive. As soon as I got it, like I had it for it wasn't a week. I felt the cord and I was like, well, I was doing my research like after the fact. I was sitting at work and I'm like, they have a wireless adapter. Let me look into that. And I ordered that night. It came a few days later, and I'm like, this you can't go back after that. It was amazing. And then
Yep.
I ended up going back with the index, but I still feel like the index is way ahead of the Vive, even though both
Yeah.
are good and they both basically run the same stuff. So
Yeah, from what
Is
I
there a
read, it's like basically like they don't have a wireless adapter. The bandwidth is too high for wireless on the index because it's like 120 hertz or whatever. And I think they're waiting for Intel to develop some sort of like wireless processor. And when that processor is finished, they'll be able to release the wireless feature of the index, if I remember correctly.
that's the gist of what I got too. I stopped reading when they said they're not doing it or they canceled it. So I got, but
Oh,
yeah,
they
it's
actually canceled it.
well, yeah. Oh, they postponed it. They call it. I forget the actual verbiage they use, but yeah, basically they stopped like production on it until they got that new chipset or whatever it was. I
Right.
can't remember what they called it, IP7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm totally butchering that, but yeah, I read a little bit about it and I was a little flustered, but because I was really looking forward to that. It's a cool experience being totally wireless, no constraints, not tripping, all that stuff.
Yeah, the tripping is really annoying because it'll like some levels you kind of command yourself, or it expects you to like kind of do 360s in a lot of ways,
Yep.
and then I just have the fucking cord wrap around my ankles and it's brutal. So
Yeah, it'll get good at like as you're 360ing, you're picking up a foot and then picking up the other one in sequence.
the one thing that has helped though is, and I'm sure you've done this as well. Do you have the rim drawing outline turned on?
Like the chaperone boundary, is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, where it like prevents you from like running into something.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. So the boundary, they call it chaperone, I think it is in Steam VR.
Yeah, yeah, I have it set
I
up so that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I have it on there. It's like a red, but it's very faint red, so it doesn't like. Sometimes it's like too overwhelming when you're playing a game. You can actually
Yeah,
change the opacity of it to really cut down on it.
yeah, that I actually do need to turn it down because there's some elements kind of like ruins the game a little bit to see those boundaries. But um, using that has helped with the cord management in a way because I can like point my body away from where I know the cord is located.
Ah, yeah,
And so like that'll help me at least like kind of shift while I'm playing the game. So
yeah,
the good news is that like they have controls to like fix your view so that you can get out of a tangle if you need to.
nice, yeah, yeah. I agree with everything you just said there. I've been enjoying it, even though, like I said, even though it's a minor inconvenience in most aspects. But there's times when you're in the thick of things and you feel that cord like getting close to wrapping around, and you're doing that 360 while you're in a firefight or trying to scramble away so you can untangle yourself. That those parts get annoying, but those aren't really that often.
Especially if you're trying to reload and then you're fucking tangled up and you're just like, oh god, I have like 17 things to deal with.
have either of you
Yeah,
guys ever face planted in a VR headset?
I haven't yet. No, I've smashed into things a lot, but that's about it.
I have not. However, I do have a story. My brother came over with his wife, and you've probably seen videos online where people just like they put the headset on, they think they're in a whole nother world, like as if
Yeah.
that's their real boundary, their real world. So my brother was just trying some random like free games. There's a free boxing game, so he's doing good. He had a good idea of like where his constraints are. That my daughter's good with that too. She's never bumped anything. Like she's very aware of her surroundings. So my brother's wife puts this thing on and she's in the boxing game and she just runs full speed right into the concrete wall, like in my basement, and threw a punch at the same time
Oh,
and cracked. This was back when I had the Vive, and cracked the controller. It didn't actually break it; it still worked. But and she like immediately pulls the headset off. She's like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" I'm like, "You're still you're still in this
you
earth." You know
still
what I mean? Like you're
exist.
still yeah. You're still in this world type thing, But like I laughed about it because thankfully everything wasn't broken, but it put a big gash in the controller. So I'm glad it was beefy enough to take that hit. But the, and speaking of which, like the index controllers are not like I've actually dropped one. It was my fault. I dropped it and the trigger popped off and I couldn't get it back on. It was just hanging loosely. The plastic broke. And I literally emailed Steam support and I'm like, hey, listen, this was my fault. It wasn't like a malfunction or anything, blah, blah, blah. Like, is this under warranty or anything? And the guy responds back fast and he's like, we'll do you a favor this one time and just send you a free one. So they sent me a prepaid shipping label, sent it back, and within a couple weeks I had it back. So
Oh, that's cool.
That's
yeah, it
cool.
was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's I haven't broken anything yet, but I've definitely like run into stuff. So The borders help though. Those outlines definitely make a huge difference. So, but at the same time, like you said, they do ruin the ambiance. Like those flashlight scenes where it's supposed to be pitch black. Sometimes I'm walking around and then I see the blue outline. I'm like,
Yep.
this just ruined the immersion.
And even when you turn it down, like the opacity, it still does a little bit. But
That's
So
hilarious.
you were talking a little bit earlier, Matt, about the gun mechanics. Have either of you guys had a chance to do much firefighting in the game yet, or are you still progressing to that point?
I have. I don't know. Have you?
I just did that sequence all the way up to um, that gun upgrade thing, whatever that I couldn't figure out and got mad and quit on. That's as far as I got. So I did a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, it's stressful. Like basically, like I find myself like making sure that I have all like my two weapons, I guess, because there's only two right now that I have, but um making sure they're both like fully loaded anytime I know that anytime I have like any downtime, basically. Because the reload mechanic, like when you're in a fight and there's like, three head crabs and like a freaking zombie coming after you, like it's really stressful to reload when they're close to you. Um and that part, like I think it will take some time and I'll get used to how the reload works, but like it is definitely the biggest like kind of curve to the point where it's just not automatic as pressing R. You actually have to do the physical actions. The other thing that's interesting too, and I don't know if you've run into this yet either, is that like so when you find ammo laying around, you pick it up and then you have to put it like physically into your backpack, right? And there's some times where if I don't like put it into the backpack just right, I'll actually like drop it on the ground on accident behind me. The good news is that there's a sound
Butterfingers.
cue. Yeah. There's a sound cue for it, so you know when you do it. But that's also like taking a little bit of getting used to too.
I was
Yeah,
just
I
watching a shot of you,
oh,
Matt, from your VOD on the stream where where you threw up a crate and tried to shoot it midair.
Yeah, and I missed it.
And just before that, you after getting the gun, one of the first things you did was you inspected the barrel. You pointed it straight back at yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to
I
take a
found that
look to make sure.
alarming.
Yeah. I haven't tried to commit suicide in the game yet. I'm sure it's possible, but there
oh,
is
cool.
actually no, there is a thing where sometimes when the crabs jump on your face, you have to shoot them off.
Oh,
And
no
that
kidding.
shit's like super stressful too.
Oh, dude, we gotta play Pavlov together, dude. The gun mechanics are very similar to this.
Oh
When you're in a
yeah.
firefight, you gotta drop the mag. Sometimes if it's racked back, you gotta put the new mag in and just slap it forward type thing, and it's a lot of fun. Like it gets to the point where you're just like, oh, let's like see how fast I can do this, get back into it type thing. It's
Yeah.
pretty.
No, I do want to try that game a lot too. It's there's just so many fucking games right now, man.
Yeah.
It's a
There
weird month.
are.
By the way, the thing
Repair is
that Repair
saying,
just said in the chat,
yeah, go for it.
yeah, so he said that he saw someone using a spinal column as a bat and tossing skulls in the air to hit them. I actually tried to do a similar thing later in the stream, but not with a bat, but trying to juggle skulls, where I had like two things in my hands and was trying to juggle them. Didn't really work out too well, but I can tell that it's possible. So I also can't juggle in real life, so maybe it translates to the game.
Any jugglers out there?
Yeah, give it a shot. Juggle some skulls.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's the thing about this is like the detail again. The watching it somebody stream it doesn't do it justice. Like
Nope.
it is so crazy how you can like literally interact with every single thing and just pick it up and just fuck with it. Like squeeze the can, break the bottle, like pick up the newspaper and read it. Like there's just it's just it does not. This is one of those games that like I saw some people talking in Discord about this. Like I it would not work in non-VR form. So like there's a lot of games that obviously get ported to VR, like Skyrim's one of them. There's a number of other games that have done that. This
Mhm.
game just wouldn't work in a traditional setting at all.
Agreed. And even the stuff you can't interact with, like when you're gonna look around the corner, you can put your hand up and like as if you're like leaning against it, even though you're really not, to make it like look and feel natural. What I mean? Like if you're gonna peek around the corner, chances are you're gonna get your face up close and put
You
your
can
hand up
RP a
next to
bit.
it as you. Yeah. So like when the game first started, I think you're on a balcony. I think this is where I did it, and I was messing around with that, and I went to like look over the edge, the balcony, there was a handrail, and my hands actually like kind of like gripped to it a little bit differently, where my knuckles were pushed back a little bit, as if I was like putting my weight on it. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, even though you're not really doing shit with it. You know, it's a cool little effect they added. You know?
Yeah, it is really odd, like just what they've done with it in general. Like even the spoon reflections. Have you noticed that too? Have you picked up any of the like silverware at all?
No, actually, I
Like,
haven't done that yet.
you can pick up a spoon and then like look at the reflection, and it'll actually show within the room as well. Um, it's just yeah,
Oh, so
it's
there
just
are
bizarre.
reflections on handheld objects.
Yep.
That means you can see
That's
around
cool.
corners.
That I'm wondering if I can actually use that as a gameplay mechanic
Oh.
later on. That would be pretty sweet.
He's gonna carry a spoon in his backpack.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So
can't take this
actually,
extra ammo. I need my spoon.
speaking of the backpack, that's another thing that also took some getting used to. So you have the backpack for storing the resin and the ammo, but then you also have your gloves for storing syringes and the little health orbs. So like this is another thing that's like just radically different from other Half-Life. So whenever you find the health station in another Half-Life game, you just go up to it and you press your button and you like actually like can recharge health. So when you find a health station here, you actually can't just like recharge the health. You have to find this like matching, I don't know what they're called. They're like these weird like alien battery things. Um, and you have to find that first and then put that into the station that you found. And then you like put your hand on it. But like, sorry, that was total tangent. But anyways, going back to the gloves piece, you can actually store stuff in the gloves too. So like syringes or those little like battery things for the health stations too. But they don't interchange. So like it'll tell you like, oh, you can only put ammo in your backpack. You can't put the syringes in, for example. So it only lets you carry like 2 syringes at once.
And what do the syringes do
Interesting.
again?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm feeling dumb here.
The syringes are just a little boost of health that you get. So if you got like
Oh,
fucked
okay.
up by a zombie, you
So you
can
can
get a
carry
quick
like a med pack
recharge.
around with you, that kind of idea.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just 2 syringes, or you can carry one of those like weird health charging station batteries too.
I think I saw in one of the preview videos that Valve published before today, in the combat sequence, something about the guy when he was fighting, picking up a syringe and loading it into some kind of gun, and I don't know. It was kind of a confusing sequence. Did you guys watch that?
I didn't know.
I don't think I did either.
I might have to link it to you guys. It's the one. It's the one. They put out like different gameplay videos showing off different things. One was like exploration, one was puzzle solving, and the other one was combat.
Yep. By the way, sorry to interrupt you. This is the sequence that's on your stream right now. One
Yeah.
of those weird multi-tool puzzles. It's not
Oh.
the 3D space ones. These are just for opening doors. But then,
Uh-huh.
if I remember correctly, this coming up here is it'll actually show you one of those weapon upgrade areas. And oh no, this is the health thing actually. So watch what happens here. So you find this like health kit, and it basically like this one already has the battery thing in it, but you actually have to find those like batteries in order to actually refill your health most of the
Oh
time.
my god, with the needles? That's spooky. I don't like that.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's really bizarre. And you actually feel it on your fingers too.
Oh
It's
no!
weird.
Why? Ugh.
He kept putting it back in there. That's awesome.
Sticking his
Yeah, because
dick
that was
in
my,
there.
and then I tried to put my gun in there. But yeah, the multi-tool thing is like the puzzle solver in a way, and it's just that one was like kind of a rudimentary example where you had a door, but when it comes to the gun upgrade stations, those ones are just bizarre. I mean, I've done 2 of them, and they're just really different. Like they take a bit of getting used to. So but you
Yeah,
can
I
see
got.
my
Yeah.
room borders are very in the way. They're blue and bright.
Rather than running into the wall.
That's true. That is very true. I still manage to somehow smack stuff though. Like when I'm reaching out and I'm like at the border.
Yep.
Yeah.
But,
So, do you guys think this is enough to like bring VR into the mainstream? Like, is Alyx it? Is there some better, bigger thing that we're waiting for to make VR what it should be? Like, I don't know, because one of the interesting ideas that I've given some thought about. One of the Siskel or Ebert, one of those two guys, we talked about this previously on a previous podcast, um, was answering a question about whether or not video games are considered art. And basically, the contention that he made is, well, once the video game like is you stepping into reality and you can interact with it in a way that is functionally similar to interacting with the real world. In other words, there's no kind of gamified um, user kind of controls. Then that's when games can be art. That was his contention. I'm not saying I agree with it, but this seems to be a step in that direction. But all the same, um, I'm not sure that headsets are yet in a place per your guys' musings about the cable, right? Where the average person who's even a serious gamer is necessarily going to want to invest in, basically, from a financial perspective, what is a second high-end computer.
Oh yeah.
That's true. And the index is kind of the extreme version, but the thing is like you can get in the entry point for this is like $300, right? Well, plus a computer, of course. It's still a lot of money. It's not like a cheap investment, but I think that, I mean, subjectively speaking, like I do think this is a really good step in the direction. I think that this game was just an unbelievable amount of work to, especially just interacting with it. Like it's absolutely insane
It
how
looks
much went into
amazing.
this. It looks good. It feels good. It's very smooth. I think the thing that is going to help the most, though, that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, is that this. So what they did alongside this was they actually updated the source engine for VR as well. So all the stuff that they use for this game, in terms of the like VR engine elements, are now in the source engine, and so this is going to become basically like entice the modding community to build on top. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what it's going to actually push
Gotta love
VR into
Valve,
the sort
man.
of mainstream direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually did
So
it.
that's yeah.
Gabe
I'd say.
and
Oh,
go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say I'm on the fence as far as like would I recommend it if you have the extra money? Hell yeah. There's like the games I've mentioned in the past are definitely worth it. So the more games you get is definitely making it more worth it. But if you're like one of those people that's kind of hesitant to get it, I mean, you don't really need it. I mean, there might be one or two games that you're kind of interested in, type thing. I would say just wait because it's just going to keep getting better and better. But this is a huge step in the right direction, I think, to bring in more people to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like the before this, I think that it like a lot of the single player games at least kind of felt more like proof of concepts. Like they were sort of like demos of what VR can do rather than full fledged
I've
things,
heard that
right?
complaint. Yeah.
There's a few exceptions to that. I mean, like I know Pavlov was the racing sims are that way, but still, like it is. It's not that the single player games have all been kind of more demo like in a lot of ways, and this is absolutely not at all. Like this is a full on immersive experience. Where I do think there's going to be like I again I'd love to be proven wrong on this, but I don't know if it's ever going to be possible. But like I don't know if VR is going to be like an esports thing, at least in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it's just that the platform is just not lend itself to that. It is just there's too much like the thing about esports is that like they kind of like democratize athleticism in a lot of ways, right? Where like anybody can kind of do it. I know that
It's
sounds
down to
terrible,
hand
but like
movements instead of
yeah,
having,
yeah,
a high-end cardiovascular system, well-developed muscular structures, and
or genetics even, right? Like
genetics, right?
and so with this like it adds that physical element that I think that like converting this to esports is going to be really difficult. So
Yeah. Well, maybe in the future, athletes and gamers will unite.
yeah,
You know,
and this may be it.
maybe
Yeah.
League of Legends VR in 10 years is like you have high-end, soccer and football athletes,
Mm-hmm.
uh, with gamers strapped to their shoulders.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll be honest. I was hoping like I thought it would be cool for there to be some type of death match for this, just to show what multiplayer can be on this engine.
Yeah.
I'm a little bummed that it's only single player. However, I'm assuming, like they said, they were going to release or did release the Hammer editor. Did they release that with this, Matt?
I can't remember. I know they
Uh,
said they were going to soon though.
Yeah, so I would love to mess around with that again. It can't have changed that much. I mean, I'm sure there's new entities and stuff to add in, but as far as like, I think it'd be just fun as hell to like, even if I just recreated some levels, made some stuff to go through single player. Like, I think that'd be fun as hell to make.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I can't speak
with the
to
mod
the.
support, they're gonna be bringing some of these classic mods back too.
Yeah, the mods
Sorry.
are going to be, that's the thing that's going to be the most exciting, I think, too. And the game is amazing, but like, I'm so excited for what this does for the modding future for VR.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So I can't speak to specific plans. Ugh, that's a pretty picture on the stream right now. But I watched an interview recently that I think IGN or GameSpot, I can't remember who, did with Gabe and Robin Walker talking about Alyx, and they asked specifically about Source 2, which I think is the name of the engine this is built on, and whether or not they're going to license it out. And it seems like their philosophy is basically like, yeah, we want to. We kind of want to see if this was actually a good idea first, see if people will resonate with it, see if people. I think the way that Gabe put it is see if this engine is solving problems that people want to solve. Which is language I've heard him use before too.
Yeah.
I think when being asked about Half-Life 3, one of the things that I've heard him say before, I'll say that this is kind of similar, is that Half-Life needs not just to be a cash-in, not just to be fan service. Half-Life is about solving.
I'm sorry. I just had a
Yeah,
video. I apologize.
Matt, you are pure comedy, man. Those of you
For
on
those
the
that are watching the
audio
video,
end,
by the way, I was just fingering the mouth of the zombie.
it's a little ad hoc dentistry.
Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, and Gabe was saying that I don't want to make a Half-Life game just because fans want it. I want to make it because I think there's an interesting problem to solve with Half-Life. And here, I think it's quite clear that this is like Gabe and Valve's attempt to be like, we want to solve VR, or at least begin the solution of VR, of what actually is the experience that's going to bring people into the medium. Um, I think from what I've seen and from what I'm hearing that this is actually succeeding in hitting that goal. Would you guys agree with that?
I would say
Yeah.
once they get the index, especially the index, more so like orders caught up. Like, I think there's like an 8 week waiting period. One of my buddies, when he came over and tried the index, he immediately went home and bought it. Like, this is the stingiest guy. Like, when it comes to money and saving money, all that stuff. He went and bought like $1,500 computer and the headset, and it said immediately there's going to be an 8 week minimum, like a delivery thing. And then of course now that's probably gotten pushed back because of this whole COVID thing. But I it's definitely bringing people in that I thought really could just do it every once in a while, just to, have fun with it. So that's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. I agree. It is one of those things where it's just like once people try it, they're going to be sold on it. Again, it just does not lend itself well to videos, unfortunately. Um, it is very much it's sort of like affects all of your stimuli, right? So, and the index is the best example of that, but it's $1,000. So,
Yeah. I gotta say two things. Like, one, the first thing is when you're in a gunfight and you're taking cover behind, let's pretend like there was somebody in this video here, and you're hugged up against the wall. It's a wicked cool feeling. Like,
it
it's like,
is.
holy shit, I can't, poke my big head over the top of it, to peek sometimes. But the other thing is the biggest detractor for VR that I think is going to be is the motion sickness, and too many people still get it. So
Yep.
that's, I would hate to see somebody spend thousands of dollars, a couple, few $100s to get it, and then be disappointed in it, and then that's going to be their view of it until the end of time type thing.
It
Which
is
I'm
funny though, like the index I feel like does reduce at least again, it does kind of stir me up a little. But like the index is because of the 120 hertz or whatever, like it's less motion sickness inducing, and it's only going to get like better for those people, I think.
hell yeah, yeah.
Do you think it's a technology problem as far as the motion sickness goes?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Maybe not 100%, but
it's a big learning curve. They're they got. I feel like almost to me it feels like they got the basics in. Now they're trying to tweak it so that it doesn't quite hit home as hard.
Yeah.
There's a game called Blade and Sorcery where it's wicked fun game. They got a lot of mods for it, stuff like that. However, it's the jankiest feeling. Like you can it's locomotion moving, so it might mess with Matt. But like the other thing is, it feels like it's not stuttering, but the movements are really janky. Just really like snappy. I guess is the best way to put it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And there's times where I'm like, man, like I could see this messing with people because, like, so I had a couple of my buddies over to try it, and every single one of them got like sick on it. Just they were just like,
Oh
oh come
no.
on, jeez. And apparently I'm one of the lucky ones. But and then that same person came over later and tried Pavlov with the index, and he loved it. He's like, oh, I'm sold, that type of thing. So
So for those
I
of
mean,
us
I
who aren't
tried.
in the loop, what is Pavlov?
that's like I wouldn't call it arcadey, but it's kind of arcadey in the way the movements are and stuff. But it's a military shooter, and a
Uh-huh.
lot of the fun from it is the online like game modes. Like have you heard of like Trouble in Terrorist Town?
Oh.
Okay, so that's a unique mode. I won't go too far into it, but have you ever heard of Josh Dubb, the YouTube?
Nope.
Okay, so he's a he's a big YouTuber, and he does a lot of stuff with Pavlov, where they have different game modes. Like there's the traditional death match, team death match, stuff like that, and then they have the Trouble in Terrorist Town, which is like a unique play on. Um, I'll just give you a quick rundown on it without going too far into it. But basically,
Okay.
yeah, each round is different, kind of like Counter Strike. So once everybody's dead, boom, it restarts.
Uh-huh.
And let's say, for instance, there's 10 or 15 people in the server. So you're all going to spawn randomly. So there's 3 terrorists that spawn again randomly. So you could be the terrorist one round, and the next round you might not be. So the
Okay.
the, the terrorists have to try to kill everybody, but nobody knows who the terrorists are except for the terrorists. They can see who their teammates are, and they're trying to like voice like they're talking to your voice like, oh hey, oh that guy over there. There's a lot of deceit and trust issues with it. And
Sounds
then
like
there's
Mafia.
yeah, and then there's like everybody else is innocence and they don't know what the hell's going on. So they're like, "Hey, get away from me!" You're all pointing guns at each other. Get you back, And then the detective's trying to bring reason into this, and he might have a couple scans where he can scan 2 people and then his charges run out type thing. So then he gets a couple buddies. So there's just a lot of stuff going on at once, and it's so much fun to see the deceit like of people round around. It makes it so much fun.
That's cool. So
Yeah, that's
everyone
that's
playing that game would have to have their own VR headset on their own system, right?
Oh yeah, yep. So I mean, people play with the Vive, people play the Index. That's it's through Steam VR. So those are the two you pretty much got.
Gotcha.
But
It sounds like you're a real evangelist for this, man. Like you're exposing a lot of people to VR in general.
really, yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, I I can understand at the same time like the people that are kind of on the fence about it because there is not a lot out there, but they do have some really good games. Like Oculus has got some great games, and I've been able to play them through the free program called Revive, where you can actually port it over to Steam VR
Huh.
and you can play it. So like a game called Lone Echo is it's a I would call it like a AAA game. It's got a huge story mode. You're on like this space station. You're a robot helping this human, and the graphics are phenomenal. It's a wicked cool storyline. Like that's one of the big games that's like really saying, "Hey, look what VR can do," And now with Alyx coming out, it's like, "Hey, look what we can really do at this point." They're just stepping it up a huge notch. So it's wicked cool to see how far they're coming so quickly.
Wait, can you? I didn't realize this is Oculus. Their store is not natively supporting non-Oculus headsets.
No, say that again. It's not supported in what?
Their games on their store are not natively supported for non-Oculus headsets, or they don't
Correct.
natively support them. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Because the
So
reverse is true, right? Like Steam
uh,
lets people play with Oculus, correct?
I see. That's the part I'm not 100% sure. I think there's certain games that like will put it on each platform. That's the way I took it. Maybe there's something I'm missing there, but I know
Hmm.
there's a lot of games that you can actually download this program called Revive, and you literally install the Oculus dashboard or whatever you want to call it. It's almost the same as Steam VR. It's their version of it, and you buy the game. Lone Echo, boom. $40, whatever it is, and then in your menu when you go into Steam VR, after Revive is installed, there'll be a little button that pops up, a new button on your menu, and it'll say, "Hey, here's Revive. Here's all the games you can play with it." So, like, I played through all the Vader Immortal games that I never would have been able to play without having the Oculus. So it's pretty slick.
Huh. I will have to check that out.
Hell yeah, yeah. Oculus has got some really unique stuff, which I don't want to buy a second headset, definitely not. But so it's kind of cool to go through that and pick which ones I want and get the best of both.
Yeah, I had an Oculus Go for a short period of time, but obviously that one's very very limited, right? Like it's the standalone headset, which is cool because like you don't need to plug it into a computer or anything like that. But
Yeah.
because of that, it is the things that you can do with it are fairly limited. So
It's like all single player stuff, right? No multiplayer.
yeah, all
Yeah.
single player, very basic games. Like it only has like 16 gigs of storage on there, anyways, and a lot of it's the OS. So
Yeah, I've played with I've learned a little bit about it through the guys I play. It's like a VR poker, which is pretty fun, and they'll tell me a lot like the difference between like the Rift is basically the same thing except for it's got a cable to a computer. Am I right?
yep, exactly.
Okay, yeah. So we'll play. I'm able to play cross-platform with other VR people all over the world playing poker, and pretend coughing on them at this day to piss them off, and then
That's like I
that's
didn't
pretty
even
fun.
really think about that. Like VR poker is probably great for.
It is. It's great if you're in the mood to just chill and relax for a little bit. You had a couple drinks, you want to sit down. I can literally sit on the edge of my couch and still be in my zone, and just chilling, like talking to people, and it's pretty.
That is so 21st century, man. Kicking
Hell
back
yeah.
on your couch at the end of a long day. You're in your underwear, dirty t-shirt. You got a beer and a fucking virtual reality headset.
Yeah.
I love that
And I
image.
and I make sure every single one of those people at the table know that that's what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. I
Speaking
mean,
of what you're wearing, Brian, you blew my mind with your stream setup. I'm gonna put that on right now if I can get it going here. Yeah, okay. Should be seeing it now. So your Twitch user is Fat Thor, which looking at your stream, I understand now.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about your setup.
So it's all right. So this is my first take with the green screen, and I showed you guys the video where I, did a retake of Thor entering Wakanda, but that's where it kind of all started. But I got this. My daughter likes the Avengers, and I do too. I mean, I enjoy the movies, and she wanted to be Gamora, and I picked out a costume, and I found this great one online,
Aw,
and yeah, so we had a great time during Halloween, and then I kept wearing this thing. I just thought it'd be funny to mess with people when they come over and they see me answer the door with this thing on, and it kind of became a thing after that where I just kept building on that. And so this is my first attempt at the green screen. I'm not perfect at it, but it actually doesn't look too bad here. But
yeah, it looks
yeah,
pretty good.
I started messing around with it. I thought it'd be funny to see Fat Thor, playing a stupid video game.
Is that your real hair?
No, God, no. I look
That would
nothing
be
like that.
amazing.
I
It's
wish.
a great
Yeah.
costume.
It is. The wig and the beard are different from what comes with the costume. The hair that comes with that costume looks like Donald Trump hair.
Oh
So
no.
That's awesome.
I immediately burned that one. But this one is great. It's like a totally separate thing, and put that on there. It's pretty slick. I enjoy putting that on, and just messing with people.
Are you going to continue the theme going
I
on?
think so. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
like
pretty
it.
hilarious.
Look at the stupid accent that's in the back. So obnoxious.
I gotta say, I see a big difference in your gameplay versus Matt's with you doing the joystick movement. It seems like you're just moving around the environment a lot more fluently by comparison.
But the big thing you'll see is he solves the puzzles like in a fraction of a second, and I'm fucking failing for 50. Okay, this
Well,
must
you're
have been
Thor.
20 minutes into my stream then.
You're Thor.
I get
All muscle.
he gets to experience the environments better, whereas all puzzles better, I guess. Because otherwise, I would be getting motion sickness.
I wish we could see me draw the boobs at the beginning. That was my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Yep.
get that.
You have to cut those in, Greg. Because did you record
right.
it drawing the boobs or no?
Yeah, I started the stream like minute or two before you actually start the game, so hopefully it showed.
Yeah, Greg, you'll have to cut both of ours in, like the dick drawing and the boob drawing. Just because
I'm pretty sure I got
sure,
yours
like,
in, Matt. That was right at the start of the stream. But yeah,
perfect.
I will try to find yours too, Brian. We'll get that going.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody has done that. Like they must, like, not everybody, but I'm guessing most people have drawn some sort of like immature thing on there.
It's smart of them to put that right at the start. It's like a
Yeah.
huge moment to be like, voila, VR is crazy, and I'm gonna draw lewd things. What?
Yep.
So Valve
Genius.
actually came out with this thing for VR a while back, a couple years ago, whatever, called is it the Lab? I think it's called something Lab, and you actually start off in this like little area, and there's these not stick figure, but like the flat, like they almost look like the what am I trying to say? The details of like the man and woman sign on the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like a flat image of a character, and they're running around this warehouse, you know, like putting packages together, stuff like that. And you're standing there, and you're in front of a marker board, and you can literally pick up the eraser and just erase it, like as if you're erasing it in real life, you know, and swipe, swipe, swipe.
Mhm.
And then of course you're drawing boobs and dicks and stuff on there, you know. And I send videos to my buddies at work, you know, saying, you know, crude things, stuff like that. But it's I thought that was the coolest thing back then. I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait to draw more, you know. Like stupid little things like that is like one little step, you know.
Yep.
And it's kind of cool.
The other thing I noticed on your stream too that you have the subtitles.
Yeah, I thought that would be good in case like I didn't, obviously I screwed up the audio, as Bad Luck was saying, but like um I thought it'd be, I don't know if it'd be good for people to see or not, so I just plugged it in.
Yeah, my audio is messed up at first too. There's some weird learning curves to getting the audio working on the streams for VR. So
You see me bending over and picking shit up instead of pulling it towards me.
I totally did that at the beginning too. Like it's eventually you're just like, fuck it, I'm not gonna bend over and pick this up. I'm gonna use the gravity gloves.
Yeah.
It is funny watching you do this portion versus like when I was doing it. Like you pick up the hand, I am the face and start
Go for the
fingering
face
them
every time.
out. I know. Because it was so beautiful to hold their faces in my hand.
See that part right there, like screwed with them. Like, what the heck am I in?
Oh no.
Yeah. So that orange stuff is how they basically like prevent you from putting your head through a wall and getting like clipping with it.
But like, look, I'm walking around like a 3-foot radius. There you go.
Yeah,
and
that
then
was a
finally
bug.
like jarred. That really messed with my head. I'm like, what the freak is going on? Watch me screw it up. Look at.
Believe in the Force. You can do it.
It took a bit of getting used to at first, but now it's like automatic.
Oh,
So.
that is the top.
The good thing is that I'm pretty sure that I don't even think I found that piece of resin. So, and you did. So the one at the tube.
I don't think I actually accomplished getting it. Look at this fucking jackass. Like, okay, whatever.
Wait, I'm curious too. Do you fuck with the toilet here too?
Oh God, yeah. I actually said I needed a drink at one point during it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to stick my finger in there.
There's another one I didn't even find either. Jesus Christ. See, this is the thing about this game is that like there's so much in the environment that like I'm watching him play it and like I missed a lot of that resin. Like I didn't even get any of it. So
I knocked on the door first. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So classy.
So stupid. Jesus, I love it.
On the Matt stream, he immediately bent down and put his head right in there. Oh, yep, you're doing it too.
Yeah.
Not all the way in, though. Not all the way in.
You're looking for a floater, and that's what you're.
So for those listening, we're at a porta potty, and we're investigating the premises for weapon pickups. And the question is are there juicy items inside the porta potty? So,
but there was a clip. So
exciting VR gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So what else is there to say about Half-Life Alyx, guys?
I gotta play it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, me especially. Yep.
Do we know how many hours we expect it to take people to get through? Have there been any estimates out?
I read 12 to 14.
All right, so I got at least 60. I got a good 60.
Taking your sweet time.
60 hours.
Well, here's a question, Matt. Can you eventually run in this game?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
So,
because I'm literally like walking everywhere, and that's weird to me.
Yeah, I have not gotten to a run portion. I know that if I was running in the game, I would, But again, the teleports are like pretty quick, so like I definitely bounce around a lot more.
Yeah. I have a feeling like that might help you in gunfights, like more so than it does me. Like I'll be still walking, like as I try to go from cover to cover. You know.
So it does. I thought that at first, but then there was times where I tried to like teleport my way out of a situation when I'm like fighting some of the zombies. But the way that they've like designed the gameplay for it is that like most of your gunfights are in close quarters. So like you can't really like run away because you're actually physically blocked by the different like aliens.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's like it's they kind of got around it. Like you know most of the gunfights, at least that I've come across, are in like small corridors, so you can't like run away very easily. I've tried, believe me, because I'm like, oh shit, I can't fucking reload fast enough, and I try to run away and it doesn't work.
Yeah. This is where I pull the body out and I use it as a boost to get in there. What?
See, this is so Greg. This is a great example actually
Oh.
of how we solved this differently. So he used the body to get up there, and I
Well,
actually picked up the crate.
I did both. I just put the crate on top of the body just to be an asshole.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
You just-
Oh god.
See, what's funny is you picked that up way faster than I did. I like was hunting around for a good like 3 minutes trying to be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? And then it's like, oh, there's a crate, and I like stood on top of the crate, and I was like, oh, this will get me in. What difficulty level are you playing on this?
I think I just started at normal,
Yeah,
whatever the
Norm-
default.
normal is default. Yeah, they have I think like story, easy, normal, and then hard. I usually play games like in general on hard, but like with this one, I'm taking a little bit of a step back just because the sort of like environmental learning curve, I guess, is just way different.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna give the joystick
that's
movement a shot again though, but I guarantee it's that long. So
nice. See, now that's one thing that's different in Half-Life, or in Alyx, is when I'm aiming down the sights, you can see what I'm aiming at down the sights.
yeah,
And I was saying something earlier about like some games, like when you're recording and you want people to see what you're looking at, like it kind of cuts off part of the screen.
yep,
So like I would kind of cant my head down a little bit so you could see it more clearly, like in the center of the picture.
yeah.
Like this one. And the other thing is you're aiming down the sights like in Pavlov and you're recording it. It looks like you're just looking off to the left of the scope. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah. I actually am closing one of my eyes on the site too. Like I
okay,
would with an actual.
yeah, yeah. Okay, this part took me way too long, so this will be like another 20 minutes.
So when we're looking
Oh,
at
see,
this actual gameplay footage, are we just seeing one eye? Is that the way this works?
Yep. Like with I don't know if Matt went through his settings, but I picked like right eye for me because it says basically you want to pick the one where you aim down the sights with so that the viewers can see it.
yeah,
Right.
mine is the right eye as well.
Okay, yeah. And then you can change like this. They call it smoothness, like spectator smoothness or something like that. I don't know really quite exactly what that does, but I don't. Maybe it like kind of blends together the jerky movements a little bit more. I don't know.
I think honestly, that's also probably why the like streaming and like videos of this don't really do it justice. Is that like the 3D perspective is so much stronger when you're actually wearing the headset.
Yeah.
You don't really get that in the video as much. Like it's a major difference. That's so funny. So it's funny watching you solve this. So for those listening, there's this puzzle here where you have to like activate the door here. And I found the object that you needed to activate it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need this later. And then lo and behold, I'm carrying this fucking thing around.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why you had it so quickly. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn, you must have.
because I found it early on. So
Yeah, I'm stupid. This is gonna look like a toddler trying to color in.
Toddler
it
in
is
Thor armor.
hilarious. Like watching people just play this game for the first time because again, it's so different. You're just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And every time I keep reminding myself, I'm like, what would I do if I fucking lost my keys? Like that's
Like
that's
Stomp
exactly
around like an idiot.
yeah.
look, I'm
What
looking
I
at
do.
the trash. Did I throw that away? Did I keep the trash? What did I?
Yeah, we need to get Taylor to get a VR headset so that when you guys are stumbling around, he can frustratedly yell instructions at us.
Yeah. He was on my stream at first, but I actually started turning people off when I'm streaming it.
You
Why
mean
is
the
that?
voice?
Yeah, because the dialogue is so good and it's hard to like hear people talking
Yeah, you want to
while I'm
concentrate.
streaming. Yeah.
See, it's funny because I tried to go into that. This is where I found like, oh, okay. I walked past that 15 times. Um, I'm I'm like I feel like the same way. Like people want to see the or hear the story and experience it, and then I make stupid comments that only I find is funny. So I
Yep.
kind of
Oh, Greg. So this is one of those puzzles. So to unlock them, they're in like this odd 3D space um, that you have to interact with this orb. So these are like the different types of puzzles that you solve.
Oh, cool.
This is a simple one, but they get progressively as the time goes on.
That's pretty neat,
God,
man.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
in
that's
trouble. That was an easy one.
well, gents. I think that we've gone over most of I think what I've heard about what's going on with Half-Life. Maybe we should wrap this up.
Yeah. Well, we should
Yeah.
do a follow up, I think, too, once we both finish.
Yeah, so I'm labeling this first impressions, right?
Yeah.
You guys are gonna plow through this, and we should definitely talk again. But initial thoughts: is this meeting your guys' expectations, exceeding your expectations? How are you feeling with regard to the hype?
I will say it definitely. So I had pretty high expectations for it. So a friend of mine had a chance to play it early on, and he was hyping it pretty hard. And he didn't really tell me much other than the fact that he was just like, "It's going to blow you away." So my expectations were high. I would say that it actually has exceeded them because, like, it's just so drastically different than anything, and that's really like what is so appealing about it is that it's just not what you would ever expect. Um, it moves slower, but that's okay. Like it's very similar to the same feeling that you have playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, and you got to figure out how to like interact with your environment in order to actually play through the game. So, in that regard, yes, it's exceeded them.
Nice, Brian.
I would agree. Um, I would say it definitely exceeded them. I was, seeing the few seconds of gameplay before I cut it off, not to ruin anything. I got to see a little bit of the movement and playing in it and being in that world that feels so real and touching everything around you is such a cool feeling. So I would say that definitely exceeded it by far because it's so cool just messing with the objects around you. It really brings the immersion, and that's the biggest thing with VR is a lot of games are immersion breakers because you might see like the boundary outline or there's things that you can't interact with which seem like you should type thing, and this just slams it home. I feel like, and I'm only a few hours in or 10 minutes in, so I'm pretty excited.
Nice. Good job, Gabe and company.
Hell
Gaben for
yeah!
president.
Yeah. All hail Valve. All praise Gabe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, more to come. Thanks everyone for joining us here at Basementside. I've been your host, Greg, aka Deeg, and joined, of course, by Matt and Brian. You can catch us all on our social media links, which will be in the description of the various forms of this media as it goes out. And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Swag
Have a good
out.
night, gents.